Good morning, my dear students. Welcome to today's lesson on pedagogical content knowledge in biology. Now, in this lesson, we are going to learn something about profile dimension. We're going to learn profile dimension. And then this is Unit 2. And in Unit 2, we will first tackle the meaning of profile dimension, which is Section 1 of Unit 2. Now, these are our objectives for the session. So I'm saying that one, you explain the concept of profile dimension, okay, and then you define profile dimension, and then you learn to apply the knowledge acquired. Okay, so these are my objectives. Okay, by the end of this session, you should be able to explain the profile dimension and then the concept of profile dimension, and then you apply the knowledge acquired in the lesson. Okay. Now, we first look at the concept of profile dimension, which is my first objective. The concept of profile dimension. When we say profile dimension, how do you understand or what goes into profile dimension? A central aspect of profile dimension is the basis for the instruction and then assessment. Okay, the central aspect of profile dimension is the basis for the instruction and then assessment. So this profile dimension is in the syllabus, is in the biology syllabus. Okay, so learning may be divided into a number of classes. Okay, so a student may acquire some knowledge through what learning. The student may also learn to apply the knowledge acquired in some new context. So, for instance, I'm giving you an example. Okay, dirty water contains particles and diseases causing what organisms. So if you have a dirty water, it contains some kind of particles and then disease causing organism. So this is a knowledge fact that the student learn in class. Okay, it's a knowledge fact that when you have a dirty water, it contains impurities. Okay, and then some disease causing organisms in the water. Okay, so with this one, to help the student to understand that particular fact, okay, the student should be required to filter the water, and then examine the water through the microscope. Okay, so if there is a microscope available, the student should use it to examine the water. If there is no microscope available, the student should be required to filter the water, that is the dirty water, and then examine the sediments left on the cotton wool in the filtering bed. Okay, so first we say that if microscope is available, the student will use the microscope to examine the water, that is the filtered water. Okay, if there is no microscope, okay, the student would then examine the water, which is the sediment left on the cotton wool. Okay, so these things are what knowledge facts. These things are knowledge what fact. Now, if there could still be dangerous organisms or chemicals in the filtered water, okay, the student should then be taught the process of boiling and distilling dirty water. Okay, so if the student filter the water, and then inside the water there is some organisms in the water, okay, some dangerous organisms or chemicals in the filtered water, you the student, what you have to do is you the teacher, you inform the students or you teach them the process of boiling and distillation. So if chemicals are in, you boil the water and then you distill the water. So by filtering, boiling and distilling the dirty water, the student will acquire scientific process skills. So there could be also another way that you, the teacher, you might give. Okay, so I'm saying that at another period, the teacher may give the student a type of dirty water and ask the student to indicate which of the three treatment methods, okay, example, you can say filtering, boiling, and distilling, okay, which of these three should be used for its treatment. So this particular requirement is asking the student to apply the knowledge gained in the treatment of dirty water to a particular type of water. You see from the steps that the student has gone through acquisition of what? Basic knowledge, okay, and then acquired process skills, okay, and also the student has been given the experience of what? Applying his or her knowledge to a particular problem situation. So with this one, that's why I'm saying that this one we are trying to teach you how you let your student acquire what? Knowledge, and then apply the knowledge acquired, okay. So if what do you call it, a water is dirty, there are so many processes the water would pass through to be very fine, and then very all the dirt, and then the even what do you call it, organisms in the water would die, and then the water will be good for consumption. So these things, when you pass through a student, when you pass a student through these processes, okay, the student will acquire what? Knowledge, okay, and then apply it in his or her daily life. So that is the concept of what? Profile what? Dimension. The concept of profile dimension. Now, we want to look at what profile dimension is. What is profile dimension? Now, when you say profile dimension, it describes the underlying behavior for teaching, learning, and then assessment. Okay, describe the behavior for teaching, learning, and then assessment. So, teaching and learning are interrelated activities that bind the teacher and the students what? Together. They are interrelated. Okay, they go hand in hand. So, teaching is the process of carrying out activities that provide students with experiences that can induce what? Learning. According to Smith, okay, you carry out activities, okay, that will provide the students with experience, okay, and then that experience they will use it to what? Induce what? Learning. Now, on the other hand, learning is defined as the process by which individual students acquire and retain knowledge, attitude, understanding, skills, and capabilities that cannot be associated with inherited behavior patterns or physical growth. So that is what learning. So that is what learning. So like I said, learning on the other hand is defined as the process by which individual students acquire and retain knowledge, attitudes, understanding, skills, and capabilities that cannot be associated with what? Inherited behavior patterns or physical what? Growth. Assessment. Now we look at assessment. Now we know what teaching is, we know what learning is, okay? So we look at assessment, okay? So assessment is the strategy to identify whatever gaps occur between what was taught and what was learned. What was taught and then what was learned. And then that's why what do you call it? You the teacher, okay? You give assessment, okay? You assess your students to know whether students learn what you taught them, okay? Students learn what you taught them, okay? Or they didn't, or they understood your concept, or they didn't. So when you do that, you are trying to assess your students, okay? You want to know the gaps, okay? What they know, what they don't know, okay? What they understand, what they don't understand, okay? So all this is a form of assessment. So we've learned a lot in this lesson, okay, or let me say session. So we've learned about the concept of profile dimensions, okay. We've learned how students acquire knowledge, okay, and use that knowledge acquired in problem solving. So we've learned what profile dimension is. We've learned what assessment is. We've also learned teaching and learning, okay, what teaching is, what learning is. So we have to review what we've learned. So I want you students to discuss this question, okay, and then you review it yourselves, okay. So you discuss the question on any available e-learning platform, So we have a Zoom, we have Google Meet. So one of you can create a link and then you discuss this question and then you find a consensus agreement, or let me say you all agree on a particular answer.